Okay, I think we can start. It's 2 p.m. sharp, so I want to welcome everyone to joining our sessions today. We are basically a consortium of teams that will be presenting here today, and we are part of the committed project. Hopefully the slides will turn up in a bit. We basically prepared the session for you on collaborative pathways for Asia's clean energy future, on modeling resilience and security, trying to capture all topics, but you will see that all of the teams are basically coming from a modeling background, and we are basically, our main work is modeling. You will see what we do in detail. So committed, how we have been working for the past 4 years under the funding of the EU DG Klima, the Directorate for Klima in Brussels. It's basically consisted of 5 European projects and 5 European teams and 7 Asian teams. All of us are basically included or feeding into the IPCC processes, also in the UNEP processes. I'm sure some of you are aware of the reports that are being published consistently throughout, and also the Asian team specifically are a lot involved in the NDC net zero process in their countries, and we'll partly see a bit how that feeds into our work and how we support these policy processes. Committed in short, basically it's a lot about the collaboration of EU modeling teams and Asian modeling teams, as I said already a few times, and here specifically we focused on the national and sectoral greenhouse gas emissions modeling in those 5 countries. So those countries were China, India, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And 3 major types of analysis sort of stand out for us here. So the focus was on developing new national long-term transition pathways. So we focused a lot on the 2035, 2050, or 2060 transition towards net zero. Then we also paired that with an assessment of basically what short-term policy measures are relevant in those countries in order to foster this transition and really scale it up. And then also we focused a lot specifically on the energy sector in most of these countries and basically socio-economic impacts and repercussions of transitions. All of this was supported and actually anchored a lot in the capacity building approach that we did, where modeling teams worked together, visited each other, had some exchange. We hear about that a bit later also from our colleague. And basically shared together best practices, engaged with policy stakeholders in those countries. We hosted 5 stakeholder workshops in the last year in these 5 countries. Really quickly, what you see today is basically we have inputs from our Indonesian team, the ASEAN Center for Energy, based in Jakarta. This team is focusing on the ASEAN region as such, but for this project specifically on Indonesia. And they'll show you their recent modeling insights and insights on the grid resilience in Indonesia. We also hear from the Master ex Pakistan team from Lahore University of Management Science. One colleague is with us today. They are focused a lot on the land use energy linkages in this project and try to foster the land use representation in the overall energy modeling. And they will share some insights with us on that one. And last but not least, we have the Tsinghua University from China with us, with the Times China model, and they had a lot of updates they worked on, but specifically here we focus on the hydrogen trade and the implications on a global level. So, as I mentioned already, we wanted to keep a strong policy focus throughout this project, and it more or less worked, I think, but whenever we had a stakeholder interaction in a specific country, we basically produced policy briefs. So I think 3 out of 5 are now already online, 2 are still in the pipeline. So please feel free to check them out and reach out to us as well. All the contacts are on there. Last but not least as well, we will have 2 more main sessions from our colleagues who joined the committed team throughout the years. So one is by Chen Minhei on the hydrogen role in the energy security. That's happening tomorrow. And the other one is on, again, on energy resilience and more regulatory approaches to energy security, which is led by Ambia Abdullah from the ASEAN Center of Energy on Wednesday. And I think with that, I'm well in time, and I will introduce the first slot, sort of, where we'll share the major results from our work in terms of scenario outputs and also sort of assessment of against short-term trends. And this will be done by Demalia Chandar from the CMCC team based in Italy. So please come and join us on stage. And this presentation is then followed by an input by Rael Mandaru from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research in Berlin, who will look into the short-term realism of national long-term pathways and scenarios. So I hand over to Demalia, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay. Oh. No. It's not working. Okay, so thank you, Stephanie, for such a nice introduction, and thank you very much for your attendance. This work under the committed project is the main theme of the work is aligning national action with the global climate ambition. And what do we mean by that? Okay, it's back to square one. Okay. Okay, there you go. So we all know that the Paris Agreement is more or less bottom up. So Paris Agreement is bottom up, and there was a mind shift from Kyoto Protocol to the Paris Agreement, where the Kyoto was sort of top down, where countries had difficulty to actually follow up on the emission targets. But then in the Paris Agreement came to say that, okay, so countries have their own national goals. Sometimes they are not compatible with the global goals that we set, right? So the Paris Agreement allowed countries to have their nationally determined commitments and long-term goals, but which are completely voluntary. And this discrepancies from the national and the global targets are due to economic growth, employment in a specific country. For example, you can take India or Pakistan, where they care more about increasing their per capita GDP, and so. But in the case of China, we have they focus more on decreasing the pollution because of the high level of stuff. So there are differences across the countries, and this creates a bit of tension, right? So development and decarbonization do not always co-move together. They can create co-benefits, but it can also create trade-offs between the countries, right? So in this project, what we develop, we create an indicator based on the SDG goals, socio-economic development, social development goals. And this we have 10 indicators in our project based on the 10 SDG goals you can see in the picture, which are typically cover the areas of climate damages, GDP, employment, and total consumption, electricity prices, etc. So in the project, we do not assume the conflict itself. We measure it by energy economy model and dedicated scenarios. We have different IMs model, global models and national models. So in the previous presentation with Stephanie, you saw some of the national models, but in this project, we also have global models such as Remind, Image, Which. And then we create the development. We create this score based on this development indicators, climate indicators, and stakeholder preferences. So within the scope of the project, there were different stakeholders workshops were conducted across different countries: China, India, Pakistan, Vietnam, and different stakeholders were asked to rank different, according to their own opinion and what they think about their own country, where these indicators should rank according to them. So we asked the question, so we got the responses, and this is how typically the responses look. So the dotted line you see is equal weight. So they gave all. So if you give all equal weight, so it's a 10. But then, for example, in China, it's so the GDP weight is a little bit higher. But in the case of Indonesia, the weight is a bit lower. We show you the medians of this weights, and so on. So it's quite heterogeneous across the different teams. Different national interests, and so on. And then we compute our target. So it's a combination of the 10 indicators that we consider in our framework, and we create a score per model and per scenario, right? So the scenarios are, we start with a baseline current policy scenario, and then we consider two main scenarios. So one is nationally determined constraints and the long-term constraints LTS, and then we have the 2-degree target, which is with the Paris Agreement and based on the effort sharing. Okay, so here you see that different models. And different, so for example, you have NDC, you have 2-degree centigrade policies, and then you have the NDC LTS transition using different emission targets like convex, concave, and linear targets, right? And you see, and there you have so on the x-axis you have the different conditions for the transition, and then you have the carbon budget, and mostly you see more stringent the constraints are, so lower you need the carbon budget, right? And then these are the indicator score of across 2 degrees centigrade, which is the global targets, and then you have the nationally determined targets, and you see there are some differences across the two. For example, if you consider the global targets, your GDP and consumptions, they tend to score super higher because those models are based on cost-effective models, so they tend to weigh more on the GDP. But then on the other hand, you consider your national interests, so in that case, your food prices score higher because you care more about your citizens to be able to afford food at lower cost. Then the climate impacts, they tend to score higher, etc., etc. And then these are the stakeholder scenario scores, and you can see that. So when we consider the uniform and the stakeholder, they vary significantly between the two. And then, so we consider scenarios, we consider scores across different ranks, so across different models, and we try to rank them. And here in this, you can see that we try to show, like, depending on which policy that your country is following, so for example, in case of Pakistan, the convex transition from LTS, NDC to LTS ranks higher, score higher than the current policies. That means they're more better off as a country if you consider those. So this indicates that the policies at the top, they tend to rank higher. So what is the takeaway message? So accounting for national priorities instead of GDP shifts the highest ranked scenario from current policies to more stringent policies. Then from the NDC to LTS, we have at least 50% chance of achieving 2 degree centigrade global temperature. above the pre-industrial level, and 2 degrees centigrade score better than the NDC LTS on the consumption and the food price, and the opposite holds true for climate impacts and the energy independence. So the take-home message would be aligning national priorities with the climate ambition is quite possible, but if pledges are fully implemented up to around 2 degrees centigrade, but closing the gap to 1.5, it's quite challenging. Thank you.
Yes, so until the time that the slides come up, I can present myself. So my name is Rahil Mandaru. I'm from the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research that's located in Germany. And today I'm going to present some of our work regarding validation of near-term technology trends in IEMs. That's not only my work, it's also the work of Pascal Weikmann and further colleagues. And yeah, maybe I can tell you a bit about the aim of this work. Yes, very nice. So the idea is when we work with IEMs or also for IEM users, maybe just that I get an idea from the audience. Can you please just raise your hand if you have worked with IEMs in your life before? That's very interesting. Thank you so much. Integrated assessment models, we try to capture pathways for getting, for example, some climate targets. Okay, now the slides are gone. That's okay. The main goal of our work was to really validate these scenarios, to make them reliable and also transparent. That was too fast. Exactly. So what do? We take the model pathways of these technologies and we compare them to historical data or to further observational data. We want also to compare it with other IEMs. So what we did at the Potsdam Institute of Climate Impact Research, we established an open source R package called PIAM Validation. It's a tool that's meant for also non-R users. You can use this tool with only one single command. So it's not only for researchers and other applicants and users of IEMs. So we saw today it's only the minority of this room, so also for others. This is also meant to get involved with experts from the energy sector or with experts from the industry. With this tool, what we want to do is to align a bit the scenario development with real-term trends and to get this real-term realism into the scenario pathways. So what I want to show you here is an example of one application cases that we did with the IEM model at PIC. So it's called Remind. You see here two versions, and we try to align the model, the pathways of these technology deployment pathways a bit more to the trends that we see. And how can we get these trends? So we use data, for example, the IEA Global Electric Vehicle Outlook, and also IRENA data in the IEA CCUS database. And using this data, we establish these kind of boundaries for plausible near-term pathways. And for example, the IEA CCUS database, it's a database collecting globally all carbon management projects, and they also provide information about the status. So is this carbon management project only announced? Is it already in plan? Or is it operating? and from different research and experience. For example, we know that a carbon management project, before it comes into operation, it needs at least 7 years. So with that, we can have a plausible range of near-term pathways, and we know what could be feasible within the next few years. And you see, near-term for us really means only until 2030. This work and these specific boundaries has been taken up by the Scenario Compass Initiative, another project that looked into IR6 scenarios, IAM scenarios, and validated them. They used, for one, the near-term boundaries that we provided, and they added to it like more mid-term plausibility boundaries and also sustainability boundaries. And you just applying these boundaries, we or in that project from 150 IAM scenarios, 1,500, only 162 passed. So you see this importance of this near-term validation in scenario modeling, just to have more reliable and plausibility checks. And also within this work, there has been some indicators that scenarios that try to model a 1.5 degree pathway without or with limited overshoot seem to be unplausible. And like just having a 1.5 degree with limited overshoot only to 1.7, that seems still feasible. So what I really want to do here is actually to encourage you, because you see this work only lives in application and also in further use in different projects, in different spheres, not only in research as it is. So here I kind of ask you to get involved and stay in touch. So you can, for instance, download the package, the R package at GitHub. You can also just get involved into the discussions, into the technology discussions. If you are an expert, for example, in your region on solar energy, we would like to know your perspective on the developments. And you, of course, can contact us directly. And with that, I can end.
Great, thanks, Rael. We want to allow for maybe one question if there's clarification need, or in general, maybe more broader question. We will have a Q&A and a wider panel discussion at the end of the session, as you are aware, but if there's now a specific question on the presentations, probably was quite loaded for some of you, but feel free to raise your hand. If there is not, then I think we move ahead, and I hand over to my colleague Isabella, who will announce the second slot. And basically, we're digging deeper into the country context.
Yeah, thanks, Steffi. So exactly, now we're going to the national modeling more in practice. So we want to share a little bit of the experiences that we had and committed with capacity building, and how we connected European global teams with national modeling teams in Asia. So we start with Siddharth Joshi, and he is from the International Institute of Applied System Analysis in Austria. And he's going to talk a little bit about this capacity building and this collaboration that happened.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see so many of you present here to go through the project findings that we finally have. So this project is actually ending in June, and what you are seeing right now are some of the findings that we have. Our final meeting happens this Wednesday. So my name is Dr. Siddharth Joshi. I am from International Institute of Applied Systems Analysis. It's an international organization in Austria. And I'm also team lead for National Energy Pathways, so majorly working on the energy side of things. Now, this project, as such, was designed in a way that we could allow a nice collaboration between European global energy system modelers and national energy system modelers. And at the same time, allow for a mechanism in which stakeholders can give feedback to both European modelers that are doing global energy system modeling and also to the national modelers. So when we started the project, we said that, okay, let's do two work packages. First work package dealing with European and national modeling team collaboration. So effectively, the expertise that we have with global energy system modeling at the European level is transferred in some sense to the national modeling teams. And with the second work package, which is work package 5, we basically allowed for a stakeholder engagement where government official, policymakers, academics can engage with us. Okay, so this is a short workflow of how we managed this and what we actually delivered at the end. We started with the current stock take of what's happening at a national level, where the deficiencies are, or where the national teams would like to move forward. Then we designed model update pathways with them in a collaborative manner, which fed into the right side of the figure, which is exhaustive research exchanges that happened in person, where national teams visited European headquarters and effectively uh, sat with us for up to 5 months to deliver on certain results. At the same time, we presented initial findings from this collaborative efforts to stakeholders. This happened in country, so we went to different countries and engaged with the stakeholders there. And finally, we had a feedback on what is required from the national modeling teams. And on the research exchange side, we had a 5 month of exchange followed by seminars that were delivered to the global community at the end. And these seminars actually culminated into some of the policy brief that you saw from Stephanie's slide at the start. So here is a list of which team went to which national or global partner. So we have one team from Vietnam International University, Ho Chi Minh City, and they went to Kyoto University in Japan working with the AIM Hub model. Then we have Zhejiang University of Technology. They went to PBL in Netherlands. Tsinghua University, PIK, Germany. We had one colleague who just presented right now from PIK. Then LUMS Pakistan came to EASA. ASEAN Center of Energy came to EASA for the collaboration. And Terry from India visited ACE, so ASEAN Center of Energy in Indonesia. So it all happened last year or the year before. And from that point onwards, we are working on models and designing scenarios to achieve long-term strategies or to understand what the NDCs can do for different countries using energy system modeling at the end. Okay, so I'll conclude my presentation with some key findings. And now these are some of the obvious findings, right? When you do these projects, you see this. But the good thing is that we actually got to experience working with national teams and also the policymakers at the same time. This is one of the key findings that I see from this project. And what we realize is that the expectation from the policymakers and the academics is same, but the delivery is not happening in the way that is expected. So this is the project that we delivered, and at the end, we are happy to say that a lot of project deliverables, as in the scenarios, which were in collaboration with the policymakers, were actually delivered on time, and also now feeding into a lot of NDC discussions going forward. With this, I'll pass on to my colleague, Talha, who is from Lahore University of Management Sciences, to go deeper into one of the country case studies on how this was done. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Siddharth, for the introduction, and thank you for everyone present for being here and listening to us. So I belong to the Pakistan modeling team, which was part of this committed project, and I work in the Lahore University of Management Sciences. And I'm going to go over the journey that we had in the project as one of the cases of one of the country cases that Siddharth just mentioned previously. So Lahore University of Management Sciences, it is not one of the larger universities in Pakistan. It is a research institute, a private university. Within that university, I am from the Center for Water Informatics and Technology. So we are not an energy institute. We also have an energy institute at the center, but we are more focused on these integrative nexus studies in the Indus Basin. So energy has these cross-sectoral interlinkages with the water sector as well, and that is what we are interested in majorly. on the right side, I've just shown this snippet of our history with EASA. So Siddharth mentioned that the team from LUMS visited EASA for the research exchange. So we have a close link with EASA as well. And that actually seeded the research exchange as well. But what I also want to highlight is that within this list of so if you see the key research partners, so you have Lahore University of Management Sciences, and within this you also have certain government organizations. So you have the research wing for the Ministry of Climate Change as well. And it is through this sort of collaboration or common platform that we actually got in touch with the research wing of Ministry of Climate Change. So these sort of institutions and linkages actually also serve to strengthen the collaboration within the country organizations as well. So we have a bunch of activities or themes that that supports our modeling ecosystem. So the models that we currently host, so in the top left corner, so we have an integrated model for energy. We also have a model for land use and also an integrated cross-sectoral model as well. So we are parts of various projects, just mentioning the sort of stuff that is related to this session. Funded through DG Klima, EU, other international organizations. We conduct training. So all of this is also supported by our teaching. That is very important. I will touch on that as well. And of course, stakeholder engagement and frequently publishing and disseminating our work. So within the projects, I want to sort of go over how all of this started and we reached where we are in the committed project. So there was this, so the project integrated solutions for water, energy, and land. This was a joint project with EASA, the Global Environment Facility, and United Nations Development Organization. It ran from 2017 to 2020, and it included the Indus Basin as a sub-project. And the sort of findings that we have from that project are very insightful. And these are stuff that I want to highlight that are feasible in these sorts of academic institutions. So first of all, there's this study on transboundary cooperation between the countries in the Indus Basin. So if the 4 countries are allowed to cooperate on energy and water, if trade is open and these exchanges are possible, so our models find that this could not only lower the cost for development, but also reduce water stress by cooperating on water resources, electricity, food production. Of course, so these sort of studies, it's very, so it's an academic study, but you can take it as the cost of not cooperating in the Indus Basin and food for thought of what can actually be achieved. And the second result that I want to highlight from that project is this balance in demand and supply-based approaches. So there is this talk about water conservation. We can conserve water either by increasing so water scarcity. You can either deal with it either through conserving water on the demand at the consumer side, consumption side, or you can deal with it by increasing your supply. So right now in Pakistan, there is a lot of emphasis on the supply side of things. So we actually did this study to and find out that so it's actually a balance between demand and supply-based approaches that could reduce expenditure and water withdrawal footprint. So in this project, there were various research exchanges, so multiple exchanges just for the Pakistan team as well that we divided over 2 individuals. So the exchange for Message IX Pakistan, where we were able to spend time at EASA, the research exchange actually helped us to develop this model further. We now have a full national energy supply chain from resource extraction through conversion, transmission, and end use modeled over here over a 5-year resolution calibrated till from 2015 to 2070. 4 scenarios. On the right is just a snippet of what the results look like. Within the research exchange, of course, we collaborate remotely, but in person, spending time with the experts, that is different. We were able to troubleshoot errors in historical model data, national data collection and calibration, better representation of demand, scenario development. So all of this is done through the research exchange that took place within the project. Within the project, we were able to also do these engagement exercises with the government through country workshops, where we engage with the stakeholders, collect data on national priorities. So you also saw it in one of the previous presentations as well. So that data was collected in such a workshop, and scenario co-creation exercises that actually feed into the model. So because I'm short of time, I will just very briefly talk about this. So this is the land use model that we have. It is the Fable calculator, which was acquired as part of this project. And this is led by the team is led by not only the Center for Informatics at LUMS, but the Global Climate Change Impact Studies Center in Islamabad, which is the research wing of the Ministry of Climate Change. So the key learnings from this project, very quickly, I will just go over this. This is the last slide. So stakeholder engagement. So what we learned is very important because so there is often this friction between academia and policymakers, where the policymakers say that the academics don't know what they are doing, and the academics say the same thing. But actually, as an academician, we have to admit that if there are no policymakers or decision makers involved in the project, we can publish our papers, but it's just going to sit on someone's desk. But you need to involve decision makers and policy makers, otherwise our results or our work are less likely to be adopted or to drive actual change. Centering capacity in academic and research institutes. This is something also very important, where government organizations are not as stable. There is political interference. And there is more volatility. So academia and research institutes are the best place to house these sort of tools, where you have more stable, isolated environments. Specialized academic programs. So the sort of models that I've showed you are very specialized. There are no actual degree there's specialized training that needs to take place for people to actually work on those models. That is one very big aspect that needs to be looked at. And of course, international partnerships, because without these organizations, so even if the models are open source, they need specialized knowledge that is acquired by hosting that model and running it through decades of work. And these organizations effectively act as gatekeepers of those models. And without that collaboration, you cannot you are not able to do anything effectively, even if the model is open source or something. So yeah, thank you. I know I'm over time, but.
Thanks a lot, Talha. Quick clarification question that's needed, or can we move on, I think? I guess then move from Pakistan to China. And Shu Zhang will present, he's from Tsinghua University and based in Beijing. He will present more specifically now on the energy sector and specifically the impact of the hydrogen trade on the critical mineral situation globally and as part of the global energy transition in general. So thanks, Shu, and over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Shu Zhang from Tsinghua University. Today, I will talk about hydrogen trade reshapes global demand for critical minerals. First of all, let's talk why hydrogen matters. As we all know, electrification is the main approach to decarbonization in end-use sectors. For example, in passenger cars, some heat pumps, and some industrial processes. But in some areas, such as chemicals, steel, and some high-temperature industrial processes, it is hard to electrify. So hydrogen is to be considered as a main approach to decarbonize these areas. However, hydrogen it's hard to produce, and so it have some barriers to popularizations. According to international agencies' forecast, in 2015, nearly 12% of final energy demand will be supplied by hydrogens. Let's talk about where we are. In 2024, more than 100 million tons of hydrogen has produced, but only 1% of hydrogen is produced from low emission sources. At the same time, we can find there are quick developments on the electrolyzers capacity building and also investment. Almost half of that is from China. And let's talk about hydrogen and critical minerals. Because we want hydrogen to reduce emissions, so we need low emissions hydrogen. Green hydrogen is an important option. It is from renewable energies, but the green hydrogen is not mineral-free, such as PV, wind turbine, battery, grid infrastructure, and electrolyzers. They need, for example, the coppers, the rare earth element, and some, for example, some critical minerals. So, because of these metals and minerals are distributed unevenly globally, so we need some trade across regions. Now we talk about the renewables, because we also have a lot of uneven potentials across globally for the renewable potentials. So in some regions, they may have some very low cost to produce hydrogen because of the potentials, because of the available land, or because exporting infrastructure. And in some areas, they may face quite huge challenges to produce clean hydrogen domestic. So this hydrogen trade is not only an energy issue, but it is also an energy, economy, and development issues. So this leads our research questions. If the hydrogen production shifts across borders, how will the demand for critical minerals changes across regions? Now, so we use the integrated assessment model named GCAM version 7. This is a multi-region model and integrated energy, land use, water, climate, and economy. This model helps us to explore the mitigation pathways under different climate conditions. In these models, we enhance this model in two ways. First, we built a bilateral hydrogen trade module. Then this module, we can simulate the trade and also the consumption and the production in simultaneously. And secondly, we built renewables equipment and also the hydrogen production with the mineral demand, so we can analyze the hydrogen and mineral demands, the whole value chain in a united framework. Let's talk about the electrolyzer. Electrolyzer is the central of the green hydrogen. There are several types of technology routes. For the alkali electrolyzers, they are very cheap and well developed, but it requires nickel and zirconia And for PEM and SOEC electrolyzers, they may relatively expensive, but they need platinum groups metals, and it is attractive for the variable renewables. As for AEM, it reduced demand for minerals, but it is still under development. Before talk about our model's result, I will give some real-world examples for the hydrogen trade globally. For example, Australia has export hydrogen to Japan and South Korea, and the Middle East is developing the hydrogen and also the hydrogen-based fuel, for example, ammonia to Asia and Europe. Chile and North Africa also have very huge renewable potentials and have a potential to link Europe. So this is our model's results. Nearly 17% of hydrogen consumption will be traded internationally, and among that, half of that will be traded by pipeline if the geography allows, and about 1/4 of that will be traded by ammonia international shipping. The North Africa, Middle East, Mexico, India, and Australia will be the main exporter. USA, European Union, Southeast Asia, and Korea will be the main importers. Let's talk about what's the impact of the renewable energy capacity installation. The most important thing is about the solar PV and wind turbine. As we can find, the Mexico and the North Africa will be the most the primary hydrogen exporter. We can find both of them will have more than 30% of capacity increase. And for EU and United States, we will find about 10% renewables capacity drops. Among that, because the solar PV will have the biggest impacts because of solar PV is much cheaper and it is easy to scalable. And due to the renewable capacity changes, the global mineral demand also changes, including the bulk minerals, including aluminum and steel, and also the critical minerals, including the tellurium and neodymium. According to our model's results, we can find in the importing regions, they will decrease by 10 to 15% for bulk minerals and about at up to 60% for exporting regions for critical minerals. Among that, aluminum and tellurium will be the most significant change because this is the primary metals needed for solar PV. And then we sum up all of the productions and consumptions. We found there have some center, the geography center for the hydrogen production and for the mineral demand will shift. We found both center will shift southward to the region to where is renewable rich. And we also found this region normally is the developing country, where they have maybe rich renewables, but limited capitals, technologies, finance, or capacities. And then we find because we deployed the renewables in these renewable rich regions, we can save our minerals by nearly 9% globally. Now let's summarize it. First of all, we talk about hydrogen trade will be a primary part in our future hydrogen economies. And then we find hydrogen trade will meaning float from global south to global north, from the renewable rich regions to to industrial dense regions. And then we found because of the renewables capacity changes, where the PV wind and the wind turbine will change across regions and also cause the shift of mineral demand centers southward shifting. And then we also notice there is some efficiency gain among these international trade. And then we also must highlight that Global South in the future hydrogen economies, because Global South, it is meaning renewable regions. If we can advocate for finance and technological support for these regions, we can give them new opportunities to develop their economies and build more powerful connections between our Global South and Global North. And then we need to pay attention to supply chain security, because if we only talk about if we only produce hydrogens domestically, they may have a lot of cost, and they may need they may ignore the multi-level supply chain security. At last, we'll have some recommendations for policymakers. First of all, we need to diversify mineral supply chains. That is already going down, and we need to invest material substitution and recycling. And then we will build strategic mineral reserve and build an early warning system for the key technology and key minerals. And then we should align hydrogen's policy with mineral policies. So our hydrogen's development can be realistic from a value chain's perspective. And at last, we need to stress an international partnership. It is a win-win for Global South countries and Global North countries. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Shu. Are there clarifying questions that you'd like to have answered now? We can have one or two or none. It's also okay. Okay, I don't see any hands. Please, if they come up later, we have a discussion round still, right? So you can always link back to the presentations and ask the questions later. I can hand over to my colleague again for the next.
Yeah, so now we move to the Asian region. And we'd like to invite our colleague Benny Suryadi from the Asian Center for Energy in Indonesia to talk about grid development and regional.
Express my deepest sympathy to community affected by the earthquake this morning in the Philippines, with the victims, their families, and all of the emergency responder. I think this is also a strong reminder for us of why resilience is matter, including for our critical energy infrastructures. And distinguished speakers, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. It's a pleasure to join the discussion this afternoon. I really enjoyed the presentation earlier. And for now, allow me to share on speaking about the grid development and regional resilience in the context of the ASEAN power grids in ASEAN. Right, okay. Let me begin with why resilience plannings matter. The ASEAN power assets are increasingly exposed to climate hazards. The climate hazards can affect several parts of the power system at once. We're looking to generation plant, substation, transmission line, distribution system, full supply routes, and demand center. Traditionally, power system planning has focused on how to meet demand growth at least cost. That remains important, of course, but at least cost planning alone is no longer enough. We now need to ask can the system withstand the shock, recover quickly, and adapt to more frequent and more severe disruption? This becomes even more important as renewable energy scale ups. Higher share of variable renewable energy requires stronger grids, better flexibility, improved forecasting, and more coordinated system operation. At the basics levels, planning for meet demand at the least cost under the normal condition. But we now need to move beyond this toward a resource adequacy and also resilience. Resource adequacy asks whether the system can meet reliability target under typical stress condition, for example, peak demand, planet outage, or lower renewable output. Resilience goes further. It asks how the system performs under rare but high impact event, such as simultaneous outage, grid failure, major storm, or extreme weather events. This is where modelings become important. We need more probabilistic and simulation-based planning. We need to understand not only on average condition, but also stress event and restoration needed. So the planning question is no longer how much the capacity that we need, but it's also how reliable, flexible, exposed, and recoverable is the system, and how can regional interconnection improve resilience. Okay. The ASEAN is moving toward what we call it a structural reordering of its power system. So last year we published what we call it ASEAN Renewable Energy Long-Term Roadmap Scenario, where renewable energy, particularly a variable renewable energy, are expected to play a much larger role toward 2030s and beyond. Under two scenarios, AREC and ASER, the direction is clear. Renewable energy increase significantly, variable renewable energy become much more prominent, and the fossil fuel capacity share decline over time. This means ASEAN energy transition is not only about adding renewable energy projects, but it's also about preparing the system for a different operating environment. A higher renewable energy power system requires a stronger transmission network. It's require flexibility, storage, demand response, regional power exchange, better forecasting, and stronger coordination between the countries. So the key question is not only whether the country in this region can build more renewable energy, but are ASEAN's power system ready to integrate higher share of renewable energy reliably, securely, and at scale? So under more limited regional integration, countries in this region mainly follow existing national plan and commitment, while regional power exchange remain limited to existing line or planned bilateral arrangement. But under more advanced regional integration, electricity trade expand through the ASEAN power grids. Cross-border electricity trade, renewable energy certificates, and broader regional energy cooperation can play a stronger role. The important point is that the regional integration is not only a technical issue, but is also a policy choice. Recent geopolitical tension and energy market disruption have accelerated ASEAN's focus on the energy security, renewable deployment, power system integration, and regional cooperation. For ASEAN's regional integration helps countries access more diverse sets of resources. Some has a strong hydropower potential, others have solars, wind, geothermal, or growing demand centers. Interconnection allows ASEAN to use this resource more efficiently across the border. But this requires planning, trust, rules, and infrastructures designed not only for the bilateral exchange, but eventually for multilateral direction and multilateral power trades. To understand this, our team at ACE has developed an assessment around 4 dimensions. First is the planning horizon and renewable energy targets. Then this dimension matter because no single dimension is sufficient. A country may have an ambitious renewable target, but if transmission is delayed, the target cannot be achieved. The country may expand the transmission, but if the flexibility is weak, variable renewable energy create operational challenge. So higher renewable energy features require integrated planning. So the assessment that we have show that the planning maturity vary across the ASEAN member states. Some countries are quite advanced in integrating long-term planning, grid readiness, flexibility, and resilience. Others are progressing, while some are still at an early stage. This very much matters for the regional cooperation. We cannot assume that all countries will follow the same pathway or move at the same speeds. National circumstance, market infrastructures, resource endowment, grid condition, and institutional readiness differ. But this diversity should not become a barrier. It should become a basis for what we call it a differentiated but coordinated regional pathway. And for ASEAN context, this is where we are looking national improvement contribution to a stronger ASEAN power grids. So this is the map of the ASEAN power grids. So if ASEAN future's power system will be more renewables, more variables, and more exposure to the climate hazards, then resilience cannot be solved only within the national border. This is where we have the ASEAN power grids become a resilience strategy for the region. APG can improve resilience by allowing countries to share resources across the border, resource dependent on the single domestic supply source, connect resource-rich area with the demand sectors, and access supply from the neighboring system during the stress period. The slide shows that the APG development is not only about building infrastructures, it is also about the evolution of the electricity trade. It's starting with generation to grid connection, bilateral cross-border, but then over time, it moved toward a more grid-to-grid interconnection, eventually broader multilateral power trades in the region. Here, I'm also sharing the finding from one of our policy brief. We are looking the topic of the operational resilience, taking a lesson learning from Iberian Peninsula blackout. So as the ASEAN moves toward more cross-border and multilateral power trades, we need to think not only about the normal operation, but also how the system communicates and recover during the disruption. We see there is a need to have a clear communication framework between utilities, system operator, and during system stress or interconnection failure, unclear communication can make disruption worse. From this policy brief that we identify that the key message is that regional power trades require operational trust. Country needs confidence that interconnection will support system security, not create additional risks. My last slide is sharing with you the statement from the leaders, from the ASEAN leaders statement on the response to the Middle East crisis held on 8 May 2026. As we speaking about the disruption of the supply and oil and gas in the region, but power system is become a key importance elements. So the leaders stated that they reaffirm, they share resolved to undertake some priority action, particularly in strengthening energy security and regional resilience, which is a topic that we have this afternoon, strengthen and advance multilateral and multi-directional cross-border power trading, and the ASEAN Brigade become a center element. So to conclude, the message that I have like to convey that first, resilience must now embedded in the power system planning. Second, high renewable futures require grid readiness. And last but not least, the APG that we have at ASEAN's level is a strategic resilient platform for the region. So the ASEAN Power Grid is not only about connecting power system, it's about connecting ASEAN clean energy future, a future that is more secure, more resilient, and more affordable for the region. Thank you very much.
Ben Soyadi from ACE in Indonesia. Are there clarifying questions before we move on? Again, probably very rich, but very relevant presentation for some of you. I don't see any. So then I guess we move straight ahead to our panel discussion, where we invited a couple of speakers, mostly again from our teams itself. But yeah, so I'd like to ask the first speaker on stage, which is Talha Mansour from LUMS again. So you met him already. He will be joining us. Next is Jian Jun from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology based in Guangzhou. Also one of our team leads in Committed. We have Jyoti Maheshwari from IIM Ahmedabad, which is in the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. And we have Sulfika Yonadi, also from the ASEAN Center of Energy, so colleague of Ben. And last but not least, I'm quickly checking with Ambir. Do we have our special guest here now? Very good. I need to look up her name again, but we are really happy that someone from the policy side from the Philippines could join us today. So please welcome Ms. Marisa Cerezo. She's the Director of Renewable Energy of the Renewable Energy Management Bureau at the Department of Energy from the Government of Philippines. So welcome everyone. Maybe round of applause. And maybe I pass the word straight on to Ms. Marisa, who gladly could join us. And we were wondering a bit also from your perspective, from the Philippine government, how these work streams and these scenario analysis that we've been doing in the ASEAN region, but also beyond, how do you currently take this up in your work? How is this relevant for you? Maybe also where do you see potential for better collaboration between research and policy side in your work? There are microphones. Yes. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you again for having us. On behalf of the Department of Energy, I like to thank the organizer for this opportunity to share with you what we're doing in the department. So when it comes to modeling and policy collaboration, I think from the Philippine perspective, successful collaboration between modeling and policy requires strong institutional linkages between technical analysis and decision-making. In our case, this is achieved through close coordination across our technical, planning, and policy units, ensuring that modeling outputs are aligned with real policy needs and implementation constraints. So a key priority for the department is ensuring that evidence-based and simulation-driven insights are translated into sound, forward-looking, and implementable policies and programs that are both technically robust and responsive to actual system needs. A concrete example is what we have launched recently in February, our 10-year Green Energy Auction Plan, which translates model scenarios into actual capacity targets and timelines. Through this, we are able to move from analysis to implementation, which ensures that policy decisions are both evidence-based and system responsive.
Great. Thanks a lot. Very interesting to hear. Maybe we move on a bit on the similar topic. We maybe want to hear from the Chinese team. Zhang Jun, do you want to maybe respond to that or see how does it works currently in China in your context?
Yes, also thank you very much for having us here. I'm basically a modeler. So I'm working on a model for last more than 35 years. Today is a modeling workshop. But in the meantime, I also work in the Energy Research Institute under the National Development Reform Commission, which is a government body. So we are doing the modeling for policy. We're supporting for such kind of thing. So I think so many things we faced how to move our common future for example, for the Paris Agreement. We do have a lot of challenges. Now, in another room, I just joined another conference talking about the offshore wind in Philippines. So they are talking about the target. We try to use the model. Let's see the previous about Asian scenarios, how much in the future the renewable energy will have. But now, can we do that? So we try to bring that into the policy making process. That room is talking a lot. This room will talk about the future scenario, but linked with the 1.5 degree, we should put them together because this is our beautiful world. We want to go ahead with that. So the modelers, what we can contribute to bring scenario back to the policy making process. What kind of policy we really want? But in that room, they didn't talk about cost. Cost is so crucial, but by today, what happened in last 1 year, that means from June of 2025 to June of this year, so big change. This also can happen in Philippines and many other Asian countries because low cost of technology. So this is my experience is let's think about the modeling, what do we want to do, and also think about what the policy demand in different countries. But China is really move very fast. I really want to bring the experience of some good practice and the new technology, which is super low cost, and bring to the many different countries. I think, for example, let's talk about China. Maybe by 2040, we want to shut down the energy import from other countries. Whether Philippines, in that room, 50% of energy of Philippines imported from other countries. Whether we can shut down the import of energy from other countries by 2045. So this is actually the scenario taught us. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, China's always our lead, basically, in the team or in the project. So it's very nice to hear the experiences. Quick round, maybe for Pakistan. You see. I think you also showed where we have the scenario world sometimes, but then also the implementation follows. But Pakistan specifically had a really good progress, made really good progress on the solar installations recently in the past few years, right? So how do you see? Sometimes also it's not only policy, right, that happened, but it's also other developments that come into what we want to see in scenario outputs according to the Paris Agreement. So how do you bring this together sometimes? Tala.
Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for bringing up the solar boom in Pakistan as an example. So just to be clear, the solar boom in Pakistan that is happening right now is an unintended consequence of this. So it's not according to government policy. So this is entirely consumer driven. These are people who have sought relief from the load shedding, from the bills, and the solution and the cheap solar technologies install them. So what is challenging right now for us when we are modeling these sort of frameworks is that there is, of course, no data because this is not regulated or most of the people are off the grid. What is happening right now is that as more and more people leave the grid, the people who are on the grid have to bear more burden. The tariffs increase, and there is this vicious cycle that they are plugged into. And right now, what we are seeing right now there's a lot of noise on what needs to be done to be able to get out of this spiral. And these sort of scenario-based modeling exercises can actually help in sifting through that noise and actually getting out what is the the policy that will work in this sort of situation. And it is challenging. And as I've said, you need to build the capacity for such modeling in long, stable institutions like academia and research institutes to be able to work on these long-term problems. Because what we are seeing today is the effect of what happened back with the independent power contracts in more than a decade ago. And if you ask in the government, so when we attend meetings, so people would say, all right, so there is this figure in the NDC, where did this figure come from? And there are blank faces in the room because someone who made that is not there in that capacity today. So this sort of continuity, the transparency, where the statistics come from, all of this is very important to preserve in order to make these sort of problems better.
Very clear. Thanks. Thanks. Very interesting. I also would like to involve the audience a bit, right? So if you have questions specifically to one speaker or to all, please raise your hand. Try to keep it short, but perfect. There's a microphone in the middle, so maybe you could use that one.
Thank you. My question is really to anybody in the panel, nobody specific. It's related to modeling and demand projection because it's longer term, right? So with the recent rise of AI, it has created a dramatic increase in energy demand spike. So I'm just curious to know, how does that impact your modeling, your policies and your strategies, just in general?
Anyone want to jump on that?
Yes, our team is working on the AI. So we are doing the future AI, the energy demand for the future AI in the world. But basically, you don't worry about that because we have a lot of electricity, so many places. For example, we have a lot of data center in Sahara. Potentially, Africa will be the very big source for the future data center because the electric fiber transmission data is very fast. So we don't worry about too much when we think about 2050, what's the Chinese data center allocation for that one. Most of them will go along from the very west part of China to the east part of China by using zero carbon electricity, which is very low cost in the coming future. Of course, nowadays, also my colleague and also colleague from the United States talking about small nuclear reactor. This also could be one option, but based on our calculation, using very cheap renewable energy is a lower cost for data center in the coming future for AI.
Yes, from Indonesia. Perfect. Sofika.
Maybe I'm sharing the case of ASEAN because the data center is something that our member states keep asking us how you implement this data center demand, AI demand into our modeling. So maybe to share in ACE, we do the ASEAN Energy Outlook that we publish every 2 years. And what we are observing is that there are several projections related with the data center. If it's coming from the companies, usually it's quite aggressive. So you want to double, triple your data center capacity. But then when we talk with the government side, there is a certain cautions because when the data center is requiring very huge electricity, and if you double, triple, quadruple your data center, then it will means you need to install like gigawatts of electricity in your country, something that in original power development plan is not there. So a certain changes need to be done by the government to address this new rising of data center. Meanwhile, on the other hand, this build of data center is also not like 100%. So there is a certain uncertainty like, okay, are we going to build thousands data centers in Malaysia, for example. So this uncertainty is currently being discussed by the government, how we address the potential need, the uncertainty, and implement it in our power development plan, just to put some realism on that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And maybe to add on that, it definitely varies per region, but certainly the data center question is also not only an energy question, but a larger resource question, right? We have the whole water question related to that and other resource inputs. So yes, maybe, okay, we take one more question. Perfect.
Thank you so much. I'm Rubaiyat from Bangladesh. I work for the Energy Ministry over there. So I basically represent the policy making arena, but at the same time, I'm a modeler. So I projected the energy demand for Bangladesh using MIDE model hosted by IAEA. So my question is that I have seen work on it from the different countries. So do you have any plan to expand, or in other way, can Bangladesh or other countries can involve with you this platform to have the research collaboration, particularly integrating the demand, supply optimization, then NDCs and other things? Just to the panel, I do have the question. Thank you.
Who wants to answer?
Okay. Yeah, so we enjoy a lot of our research collaboration with these colleagues. I remember the Chinese policy making at the very beginning, think about the mitigation. That's my starting point in 2020. 1990. In that year, we got budget from here, ADB. They support the China's key sectors mitigation from energy sector to do this. So I think right now, by the colleague here, we really encourage to the collaboration with among our countries and also with other countries. And in the coming future, even I think we talk about how to work more with the EU colleagues and try to get their experience to be here. And I believe there's a big potential for us. We want to invite you and everywhere in the Asian countries to do more. And we also have planning. Think about some idea. We want to do Asia assessment report outside IPCC. IPCC is getting to be very political. Let's do our own, because Asia is getting so important in the world. It's not only for zero carbon, but for so many things that do with that. And then also I want to talk about policy making process based on my experience. Because I'm inside the government, I'm modeler. So we got a lot of fighting with my colleague inside our military, because our scenario is too much different with their own idea. But based on the central government requirement, they have to consult with us. If we say something different with them, they will get shocked. They have to come to us, get us convinced to listen to them, or we get them convinced to listen to us. So with such kind of argument, I think the importance of modeling and also how to support policy is our own. And right now, that's the reason why China uses a lot of new policy to support our zero carbon things. That's my experience with that. Hopefully I answer your question.
Yeah, maybe to clarify also for the specific project we are ending now in 2 weeks, basically. So this was, these are projects that are getting funded every few years, either through the DG Klima, but also through Horizon project from EU side. Of course, there are other funding bodies globally, and I think that's something we should also look out for more in terms of EU-Asia collaboration and see who else besides EU could fund that or has an interest. So I'm happy to explain you more later, but this is currently how it worked. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also want to add a little bit to the response. So the people that I collaborate with in this project, I would not be able to collaborate with if this was a government-led project, or so because this is a consortium of research institutes, academic institutions, so we are able to talk to each other outside of the other instabilities for the political interference and whatnot. So on the government level, the collaborations come and go depending on what what the political scenario is right now. But for these sort of long-term collaborations, I think it's very important that you put these institutions at the center. So that is what has worked for us right now.
Okay, I see one more question. Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. I am Anil Chaudhary from Energy Efficiency Services Limited, Ministry of Power, Government of India, basically. And as we have already discussed, all of you, that various kinds of energy, clean energy, hydrogen, everything has been discussed. And it is generally it is there that generation and transmission takes the front seat whenever we talk about energy. But do you think that energy efficiency, as I come from energy efficiency, is also a virtual power plant, basically? Energy efficiency. So how you will integrate, because everything is supply side management, everything. So demand side has to integrate in that. Demand side, demand response, so everything, and because this is going to be another kind of generation. So how you want to comment on this, how you are thinking the demand side management, demand response will be integrated on this? So I wanted to know this comment, because all kinds of energy has been talked about. Thank you.
Thanks. Can I give this to Jyoti? Sorry, I was waiting for your question. So maybe it's also nice to bring in the Indian context and the modeling context there as well.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yeah. You know about the biennial transparency report that every 2 year the government of India and the other parties submit to UNFCCC. So our team is coordinating the NDC tracking work, and we have mapped more than 900 policy that Government of India has initiated since 2005. So when we were reporting the NDC tracking work for the BTR1 of India, so we came up that the maximum mitigation potential is from the energy efficiency policy of India, like standards and labeling program, Ujala program, street lighting national program. And so we do that modeling work, that modeling this policy for the GHG mitigation. And in our previous work, we found that most 17 key policy, they are a club, they are almost more than 100 policy, 120 policy. But when we are clubbing them together, solar energy policy, wind energy policy, and different energy efficiency policy, so 17 major key policy led to the mitigation of around 8 billion ton during our first NDC cycle period, like 2005 to 2030. So it has already had a 2 gigaton of mitigation until 2020. And if we project that the same policy will continue in the future, it will result around cumulative 8 billion ton of mitigation. And our new analysis until 2035 says that it can mitigate around 12 billion ton of carbon dioxide. So we are incorporating this policy in the modeling work, so that we can account for that this mitigation has already been mitigated through this various energy efficiency policy and demand side management measures. So we are already doing that in the modeling work. Yeah, I think every model does that. They takes into account the policy effectiveness and what are their targets and how much emission they mitigate in the future, and they in the scenario work they do account this thing. Yeah.
Addition? Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I think this is a very important point, because the demand side is basically a bottom-up phenomenon, right? But the level at which our models are working is a very large scale sort of national level sort of models these are. And what you can do is, at the moment, people in the models, as Jyoti mentioned, you can add in margins, you can add in coefficients and multipliers to take care of that. But essentially, if you want to do it with the right in the right way, this is essentially a scientific challenge. I mean, how do you link these small-scale bottom-up phenomenons and represent them meaningfully in these integrated assessment models? And at the moment, that is actually an open question of how to do this in the modeling framework. And it's very, very important because when you deploy these technologies at scale, as simple as introducing a more efficient system in the market, you need to be able to understand how the common person is going to react to it. And I would say that is right now not there in the modeling frame, and we need to figure out how to do it.
Just adding to what you have just said, that because we will have to bring the demand response also, means our consumer behavior will also change because of that. But that is a Herculean task, easier said than done. So in that case, when we are telling consumer to behave in certain way, then our model should be also like that. And you have briefly touched about that. So challenges remain, and if we are thinking that, I think we can come to a solution also.
Yeah, exactly,
like
exactly.
Thank you. Thanks. We quickly have to wrap up, but maybe I also wanted to hear from Ms. Narisa and from the Philippine perspective on this collaboration or idea, as well as in research, as in policy. What would be your dream collaboration in terms of fostering a joint energy transition in the ASEAN region or beyond? So how do you see this linkages, maybe also with respect to the EU, if any? Thanks.
Yeah. I think cross-regional collaboration is important, as we need to align our understanding on, there should be an alignment on the data, the methodology, and modeling assumptions. The collaboration that we are doing is not just for exchanges of experience, but I think it's more important to improve our exchanges in ensuring that we have a harmonized approaches. Strengthening sustained collaboration platform will be important to ensure that modeling insights are not only shared but also translated into coordinated and actionable strategies across the regions. So I think considering our plan to have a ASEAN power grid, it's important to have a harmonized approaches in terms of modeling and policy making. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And maybe I want to, based on that sentence, the harmonized approaches, want to hear from each of the modelers now, basically one major requirement or need you have in order to work on harmonization of approaches across models from your country's perspective. So what would you require to foster model policy collaboration and specifically the harmonization across regions? Quick one.
Harmonization
across regions specifically, yeah, across regions, and then maybe a translation to policy.
I think this sort of the project that we are talking about, Committed, was a great example of, and what worked for us was this common platform of stakeholders from multiple regions in one project collaborating. So many things about my colleagues from the other countries we know through this project. So I think these sort of efforts, if they keep on continuing, that would be great.
Thanks. Jankajun, very brief.
Yeah. First, fighting for 1.5 degrees targets. Okay. Second, Asia is so important. Let's do something for Asia. That's my planning.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tala that through this committed project, we need more committed-like projects where we also have a meaningful stakeholder engagement, policymakers, and we also have a strong modeling team, so we can integrate the stakeholders' input in the modeling and to better represent our results from the policy context.
Thanks. And Sulvika, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. maybe two things. One is on the data. I think having a strong data will be very important because your results is only as good as the data. So through the exercise, data harmonizations and etc. is something that we learn. The second is energy is changing very fast with all the geopolitics and everything. So what we notice is that flexibility and also how fast you produce the results is becoming increasingly important. So I think on those two sectors, something that we need to work on together. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Marisa, any last words? Or all said?
Of course, the projects like this, no, I think the strength of this initiative is to bring together the modular experts and policymakers and to have a continuous exchanges on this.
Agree. Thanks so much. Thanks also for hosting us here at Manila at the ASEF conference today. So we're really excited to be here. Thanks for the audience. Thanks to the audience for having us and for listening and interacting. And of course, the ASEF organization for allowing us to use the space and the session today. So thanks a lot, and we'll be still around.